Samantha Stevens China on Bewitched. And so I asked him then, I said, okay, we're online, but I'm finishing the story. And you guys who are offline, you can just kind of hang with us here, or that we're offline, you can just hang with us here just for a minute. I'm telling them how I happened to get the Andy Griffith memorabilia we have in here. So anyway, I asked this guy, I said, have you ever run into any Andy Griffith Show stuff? He said, not yet, but I will. I said, when you do, call me first. And so I kept up with him and just kind of made friends with him. And so as he got into that stuff, he would call me, and I got to buy some of the stuff. And then it got to where he was having to auction the stuff, and so I still won some of the. I didn't get Otis's pocket watch. That's one thing I wanted that I didn't get, but I got a lot of other stuff, and I got it before Andy Griffith and Don Knotts passed away, because after they passed away, I saw some more stuff come available, and I mean, I'm a piker compared to people buying that stuff. I mean, it was like thousands of dollars, and I didn't pay thousands of dollars for that, but it was crazy. So, Doug Gast from Indiana, are you northern or southern? Okay. Mark and Bonnie from Illinois, where are you guys? Hey, Illinois. And Catherine from Indiana. Hey, northern or southern? Just kind of in the middle? Kind of middle Indiana, okay. And Betsy, this is Indiana Day. Betsy from Fishers, Indiana. Hey, how are you? I wonder if Bill and Gloria are watching today, because they're from Indiana, somewhere near Anderson. But anyway, Bill and Gloria, if you guys are watching, hey. Jim and Janet from Kettering, Oklahoma. Hey. Deer season out in Oklahoma? Oh. Ohio? Oh, okay. All right. And Sandy Wilson says, hey. Christy Woods, my sister, is on. She shared. Thank you, Christy. Heather Olson, hello from snowy Utah. And you read Two Who Survived. That's the Rose Schindler, the lady that we had on the podcast who was in Auschwitz. And man, if you haven't seen that podcast, you definitely need to see that. Have you seen our podcast this week? Has anybody seen that yet? With Lauren, Take Two. Lauren Bradford, she's Miss Alabama, and she got first runner-up in Miss America. And I'm telling you, she was robbed. She was robbed. She was robbed. And we had her on the show, and she wouldn't badmouth them, but I did. I watched, and she was robbed. I mean, I'm just telling you, she was robbed. You'll have to watch the podcast to see what happened, because she tells the story, and I comment on it, and because she was robbed. Serena Stowe Garner used to have a miniature horse sale in Mount Airy, North Carolina, and stayed at a hotel there. It had a lot of Andy Griffith memorabilia. They had Andy's police car. They had one of Andy's police cars, because I've got one too. I've got the second season squad car, the squad car from the second season. Michelle from Indiana, where's Michelle? Or are you just like watching? Lacey turns, and it's minus 14 in Montana. Ooh. Minus 14. Hey, when you get down to like 10 and then into minuses, I don't know if you can even tell, can you? Lisa Brady Bush, we're glad you're here. Old man is here, Kevin. Vicky Duick is here. We got a good show for you today. This is an important day. Today is Today is a Tuesday, right? I mean, it's a TWOS day. It's a Tuesday because the date is 2/22/22. Roger and Carol. Christy, did you know Roger and Carol are getting, not Roger and Carol, what am I saying? Roger and Tammy. I'm sorry, Tammy, if you're watching. Forgive me. But Roger and Tammy are getting married today. Christy, did you know Roger and Tammy are getting married today? They picked a date that nobody can forget, and then I forget her name. Wow. But Roger and Tammy are getting married. 2/22/22 is a palindrome, which means that it works backward or forward. I mean, it's a word, phrase, or date that can be said the same way backward and forward. And in this instant, it works no matter how you do the date. I mean, if you do it European way, 22/2/22, or if you do it like we do it, 2/22/22. But did you know that the next palindrome date will occur 1/20/30/21? Because it's 1/2/0/3/0/2/1, and then backwards that's 1/2/0/3/0/2/1. So it'll be 1,000 years before the next palindrome day. Today also happens to be National Margarita Day. So you'll actually find plenty of ways to celebrate it being 5 o'clock somewhere because it is a Tuesday, and there's so many places having the $2 thing. In fact, Ruby Tuesday restaurant, you can get a $2 margarita, and it's Taco Tuesday. So you get a $2 margarita with 2 tacos. Get this. Now, this is one last little thing. I searched a 4-sport database: baseball, basketball, football, and hockey. Soccer doesn't count, of course, because that's a communist sport. And so a 4-sport database: baseball, football, basketball, and hockey. To find if there was any player that ever collected an exact amount of 2s. And actually, I found one. Mike Graminsky is the only player in this 4-sport database to have an exact amount of 2s. On March 30th, 1988, he's a member of the Philadelphia 76ers, and they beat the Milwaukee Bucks. And get this, Mike Graminsky, in one game, had exactly 22 points, 2 assists, 2 blocks, 2 rebounds, and 2 steals in one game. There you go. And then I wanted to tell you what has happened on this date in history. I have, I think, 4 pretty interesting things that I found out that have happened. In 1782, on February 22nd, the Purple Heart, the first U.S. military decoration, was instituted by General George Washington, actually, then in 1782, and it was like the Medal of Honor then. It was awarded for bravery in action, and the records from then show that only 3 men actually received it during the American Revolution, and all of them were non-commissioned officers. 2 of these Purple Hearts actually still exist. They're in museums, but the original medal was kind of not a medal. It was sewn onto a coat, and it was a purple heart-shaped piece of cloth with a silver braid. And this, as I said, was the Medal of Honor of the American Revolution, okay? And so even though it was that, it seems to have been forgotten for about 150 years, because on the 200th anniversary of Washington's birth, that marked the kind of the revival and the reignition of the award. On February 22nd, 1932, they came out and reinstituted the Purple Heart. And the current purpose of the Purple Heart, as you know, is a medal. It's an award for people wounded or killed in the service of our country. An oak leaf cluster is granted to a member of the U.S. Army or Air Force who has previously been wounded and who already has a Purple Heart. They'll attach an oak leaf cluster. And then in Navy, Marines, and Coast Guard, they attach a gold star if they already have a Purple Heart. But that was on February 22nd, is the anniversary of the Purple Heart. And then 1943 is also an odd date in the history of February 22nd. It's not famous or anything, but there was something that happened then. It's kind of an odd piece of history that if anybody really knew about it or if it was reported, it hasn't been remembered very well. But there was a group of college students in Germany in 1943, and they called themselves the White Rose. And so members of the White Rose, they advocated nonviolent resistance as a means of opposing the Nazis. I don't know why it always seems to go bad for nonviolent people opposing people that are willing to use whatever form of violence. But anyway, the White Rose was a nonviolent group opposing the Nazis. And three of the group's founding members, Hans Scholl, Willy Graf, and Alexander Schmorl, were medical students at the University of Munich. And so they were on the Eastern Front and actually, they were like touring, and they actually observed the murder of Jewish civilians by SS troops. So when they returned to Munich, those three joined with other students to discuss their opposition to the Nazis and to Hitler. And they had a lot of youthful idealism. They had an impressive knowledge of German literature and a Christian background. And the students published their beliefs in a series of leaflets under the name The White Rose. And the first White Rose essay concluded with this statement. Now get this. It said, "Do not forget that every nation deserves the government that it endures." Now hang on to that just for a second. That was pretty astute of those kids to recognize that then. It was 1943. Yeah, I hear people say, well, when Hitler took over, well, the Nazis did this when Hitler took over. Hey, Hitler didn't take over. He was elected. This was a country of 79.9 million educated people in an industrialized modern nation. And they elected him. And at no time during the history of that conflict, during no time did the Nazi Party have more than 8.5 million members. And yet that minority made all that happen. And so it is amazing that they would notice that line, don't forget that every nation deserves the government that it endures. So they used addresses that they got from telephone books, and they disseminated these leaflets and mailed them to individuals across Munich. 5 more leaflets followed over the next 8 months from the White Rose, and the Gestapo became increasingly concerned about this potential threat. By early 1943, members of the White Rose were actually scattering leaflets by hand. And they began an anti-Nazi graffiti campaign. They painted freedom and down with Hitler on public places throughout Munich. But this obviously increased their risk. And on February 18th in 1943, a Nazi party member observed Hans and his sister, Sophie, throwing leaflets from a University of Munich classroom building. So Hans and Sophie were arrested that day, and the investigation was torture, and they uncovered the participation of Christoph Probst, a fellow University of Munich medical student that was in the White Rose. And so Hans, his sister Sophie, and Christoph Probst were quickly tried and publicly beheaded on February 22nd, 1943. So that happened on this day in 1943. 3 college students protesting Hitler's regime, publicly beheaded. Okay, now on to some better news. In 1980, you remember what happened on this day in 1980? Does anybody remember? What did we just finish? We just finished the Winter Olympics. And in 1980, we were right in the middle of the Cold War. And the U.S. hockey team was a bunch of college guys. You know, it was just a bunch of college all-stars. And they were built into a team, right? Now these are college guys playing for the U.S. Now there's the NHL, you know, all the professional hockey players, and they don't get to play in the Olympics at that time. But Russia, the Soviet Union, they had the very best players from their professional leagues, because they don't really have professional, you're just playing for the government. And so they had the best team in the world. Let's put it this way, they had the best players in the world. But we came up with the best team. And the coach of that team, do you remember the coach? Dan, what was the coach's name? Herb Brooks. Herb Brooks molded those guys into a team. And if you see, you ought to see the movie Miracle, okay? That movie is just awesome. But it shows how at one point he was having these guys tell where they were from. And one guy would say, I'm from so-and-so, I'm from University of Minnesota. And another guy, I'm from so-and-so, I'm University of Iowa. And I'm so-and-so, I'm the University of South Dakota. And he would have them do this day after day until one of them said, I'm so-and-so, and I'm from the United States of America. And then they all started picking that up, and they realized they weren't representing their teams. They weren't the star from a team coming to play. They were representing our country, and that they were one team. And it's, to this day, it's the biggest upset maybe in the history of sports, when the USA beat the Soviet Union. And they call it Miracle on Ice. And there are things that we remember through history, but who doesn't remember Al Michaels when that clock was counting down? Al Michaels saying, "Do you believe in miracles?" Yes. And that was on this day in 1980. Okay, here's the last one. This is a weird one. But on this day in 1997, a team of British scientists working under the direction of Ian Wilmot at the Roslin Institute near Edinburgh announced the birth. Would this be a birth? I guess it's a birth of Dolly, the sheep. It was the first clone of an adult mammal. That happened on this date, 1997. Dolly, the first cloned sheep. And all of a sudden, when that happened, man, all the science fiction movie people just went into overdrive. Now they're, pulling out Hitler's frozen head from somewhere, and some Nazis trying to clone Hitler. And I mean, all these movies came out. But it's interesting to see what was science fiction. I guess it's what is in somebody's imagination eventually becomes reality. Because there's not a discovery or an invention or anything that we look at. A table, a chair, a book, a camera, a clock, a window, that at some point wasn't in somebody's imagination before it became real. I mean, and most of them were solving a problem. Austin asked me one time how we have some people we know, and they made a lot of money in an industry, and it's like an odd way that they made a lot of money in this industry, and he said, how did they do this? And I think he was wanting an explanation of the process, and I said, I don't really understand the process, but I do know that they looked and saw that there was a problem in the industry, and they said, well, if we did this and did this and did this, everybody would use what we're doing because everybody needs this problem solved. And so when you think of a lot of the inventions or a lot of the money that's been made, a lot of it was solving a problem. Band-Aids, solving a problem. There used to be a yacht parked over here at Orange Beach Marina, and we would laugh because the guy that owned the yacht, his father or mother invented dental floss. I guess he got a penny every time somebody flossed their teeth. But it's just like, what did people do before dental floss? A stick, I guess, a toothpick, And then somebody said, well, here's what we can do. And then somebody put wax on it. And so it's amazing. If you look over here, if you visit the studio sometime, you will see there are this bottom left cabinet there. That is my curiosity cabinet. And so the people in the studio are looking over there now, and I'm hesitant to even reveal what's in there. I almost want to make you guess. In fact, I think that I will make you guess, because you people who are watching live, you might want to come and guess sometime, but when we get through here, I'm just going to walk out in the studio, and after a couple of guesses, I'll tell them, because they're here from Southern Indiana. Hey, we appreciate you being with us today. We'll be on Thursday on wisdomharbor.com. If you haven't joined, please join. Okay, it's very easy. Wisdomharbor.com. That's wisdom, HARBOUR.com. There are so many things that you will love there, and this is an awesome way to connect with your family. What a great, very inexpensive gift to give your adult children, to give your grandchildren, to give a friend. And we're relying on you guys who are already members to spread the word and put the mojo on somebody else to join so they can talk about some of the cool things that you're finding out on wisdomharbor.com. We will see you Thursday. Bye-bye. Bye.